Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Martin McPhillamy, online performance coach, helping people with sleep, breathing and stress. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, you enjoy the content, click subscribe below. In this video, we are going to talk about how much sleep do you need? And the answer isn't as simple as you think it is. Hey everyone, so in this episode we are going to discuss all about sleep, how many hours of sleep you should be getting, and diving into when you should be getting more, potentially when you can be getting less and getting away with it. Really, it all comes down to your goals, your daily lifestyle, and who you are as an individual. So sleep is one of the foundations of health. It pretty much allows us to do everything physiologically in our body. Without sleep, we tend to go into a state of misbalance in our nervous system, and the nervous system basically is the CEO, the controller of everything in our body. It's regulating things in terms of our breathing rate, in terms of our heart rate, our digestion, our stress levels, how we interpret the world, how we connect with each other, and if we're not getting enough sleep, what's going to happen? It's going to throw the whole system out of whack, and you're not going to be performing at your best, and you're not going to be performing as healthy as you could be. So it's really important that we get enough sleep, but it's really important that we get enough quality sleep. However, when it comes to the amount of sleep that we're getting, there's generally a number of data points that people look at in the science, and that's just basically a U-shaped curve that brackets people into saying, hey, pretty much everybody should be getting 7 to 9 hours sleep, which holds true for the general population. However, what about if you're an individual who does more, is more physical, is more stressed, has anxiety, or an individual who actually doesn't do a lot? How is that going to differ in terms of the amount of hours that you need to get to sleep? In my experience, working with people who are high performers, individuals who are constantly on the go, type A individuals who potentially are more stressed physically, mentally and emotionally in terms of their output compared to, say, someone who just likes to have a chilled lifestyle and just relaxes a lot more than they do, or is just taking things easy. Or you've got an individual who maybe is 70 years old and doesn't do much physical activity anymore, doesn't really do much other than just enjoying their retirement and enjoying themselves. How is that going to compare to someone who's 40 odd, who is still training 5 days a week, still running a business, has kids to look after, and they're struggling? So essentially what I'm trying to say is the more stressed an individual is, potentially the more sleep they actually need. Because it's during sleep that we actually go into our deep phases of parasympathetic activity, which is our rest and digest and our restorative part of phases. When we get into our deep sleep, which is our stage sleep in the non-REM side, that's when our body releases a lot of hormones, testosterone, growth hormones, and really the sources of chemical outputs that actually allow our body to recover, the muscles to recover, our brain to get washed out of the debris from the energy byproduct from just mental activity and physical activity throughout the day. And if we're not getting enough sleep, then that can tend to be detrimental to health and performance as well. So say, for example, you've got an athlete, a professional athlete who is training maybe twice a day, 5 days a week. On top of that, they're going through a lot of physical exertion, and they've still got family at home that they need to look after. At different points during their training season, they're going to have different intensities of work. They're going to have more competition. They're going to have more games. They're going to have events such as the Olympics coming up, as well as other things going on in their life. And their stress levels are going to increase. So actually, the research suggests in those typical areas that increasing time spent in bed up to maybe 10 or even 10 and a half hours can have a positive impact on their performance and on their health. So we really need to look at the individual and assess their levels of stress and also their output throughout the day, and then categorize these individuals not just as a bracket umbrella, but then also take into some huge considerations on, number one, their daily activities, their lifestyle. Number 2, the quality of sleep they're already getting. Number 3, the relaxation protocols that they might already have in place that may be able to help when they've got low levels of sleep, and to look at their practice overall. But how does that help someone like yourself? I mean, you might have jumped onto this channel and you're not one of those individuals. You might be, and you might have to start making some considerations or reach out and get in contact with me, just because looking at you as an individual and how you perform is going to be much better than just going on science-based evidence that just looks at a population on a whole. But it's that saying, the general rule goes, if you're not getting 7 hours sleep and you haven't got things into place to help manage with that, which I'm going to do a video on shortly of what to do if you are getting a low level amount of sleep or less sleep than 7 hours, say, and how can you recover from that. I'll pop a video up here eventually when I get around to creating that video and putting it into this program. But if you're not, then there's going to be performance impacts. At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to have the executive functioning, the cognitive processing, the presence, the alertness, or the decision-making skills if you're getting chronically low levels of sleep or poor quality sleep. Can you get that back? Would you like to get that back? As long as it's not been going on for too long and it's not started to cause damage in the brain, such as causing issues with Alzheimer's and dementia, because we know that lack of sleep can cause that, then it's probably regenerative. But it's going to take you maybe a little bit of time to catch up on that. And that really is going to depend on your level of stress and your level of output. Go back to the athlete situation, just because people can relate to those individuals and might look at those as the typical high performers, although there's individuals out there who might be doing more mental tasks than the physical tasks that still are using just as much energy. If an athlete is burnt out because it's the end of their season, they've not been having some promising wins and they've just put all their energy into it, then stripping back all the training and literally having them in a bed for 2, 3, 4 weeks, 10 hours a night, it's probably a place to start with them, because they're just going to need to recover. Their body's going to need to recover, their mind's going to need to recover, their brain's going to need to recover, and we can do that with an athlete. But what about someone who has to go to work? Well, maybe we can start by just increasing 20, 30 minutes at a time. 1 week you might go, okay, can I reach 7 hours this week? Then you might go, can I reach 7 hours 20 the next week? Can I reach 7 hours 40? Can I reach 8 hours? Eventually, you're going to get to a point where that time doesn't seem as if it's a big chunk to take out of your day, because a lot of people have belief systems that means they need more time. But often when people say I don't have enough time, it's actually a capacity to believe, a belief in their own capacity to actually be able to do the work in the time frame they already have. Everyone has the same amount of time. No one can change that. You can just be more productive by your focus. It's simply focusing on your ability to be able to do the work. And if you don't have good quality sleep or a long sleep, then your focus is going to be poor, and therefore it's going to take you longer to do the work you need to do. You're going to be less productive. But by breaking down the additional sleep that you want to get in, doesn't cause so much cognitive dissonance within the mind and the belief systems and the actions you want to take. By breaking it down, can I get more 15 minutes, then half an hour, then 45? Before you know it, 5 or 6 weeks later, you might have increased that to 8 hours. And you've gone from less than 7 up to 8 hours, which you're going to start to feel the benefit from that. You're going to feel more rejuvenated, more rested. If you don't, then you might need to push that up to a 8.5, 9 hours. Eventually, you're going to get to a point where you do feel more refreshed. And if you don't, then you need to reach out straight away, because there might be some underlying sleep issues, especially if there's some snoring. There could be some sleep apnea, or there could just be some function issues going on, even with diet and things like that, which just means you're lacking energy. Or stress itself can cause those issues as well. Individuals who have less sleep have a lack of bodily awareness and don't really recognize the signs and symptoms that occur, and that's why you hear these people just having heart attacks and strokes when they're in their 50s. I've seen it often in my clinical practices. They don't realize. But before it's too late, start to make those changes. Start to recognize, start to realize, start to have the awareness. And you're going to be able to create some shifts and changes in your environment, in your physiology and your psychology. And that's going to allow you to perform better. It's going to allow you to feel better. And if it doesn't, then again, I'm saying reach out. So the 7 to 9 hour bracket is for the general population, for most people, 95% of the people. But those people who want to be high functioning, high performing, they really have to look at their sleep in terms of the amount of stress, when they are able to sleep more? Can they? When to take breaks, when to take rest, when to go hard, when to sleep less? That is then going to help them to stay on top of their stress, their energy, their focus, their productivity.